All right, this session will be interesting. So today I'm actually going to try to do it a bit differently with a screen share as opposed to the traditional me speaking to a camera. So as I promised, I would be talking a bit about creating effective word of mouth or viral campaigns. So first off, what exactly makes a campaign viral? Why do certain things get talked about more often? Why do certain videos get shared more often than others? To quickly reiterate, this is actually more of a book summary rather than me talking about some concepts. It's a book summary from the book Contagious by Jonah Berger. He does a really good job of really dissecting and analyzing why certain campaigns or certain videos go viral. To quickly summarize, basically what you're looking at over here is he uses this acronym STEPS to describe and to categorize all the different elements that go into a viral campaign. So to read it through, STEP stands for S is social currency, T is triggers, E is emotion, first P is public, and then practical value and stories. So I'll go into some details with all of them. And a key takeaway before I wanted to talk about steps is, in his book, Jonah talks a bit about how influencers help with virality and spreading the word, but that in itself is not sufficient. You can get the average, if you can get the average person to want to talk about your product or service, then you've really built something that is truly viral. Virality needs to be built into your actual product, service, or campaign, and it's not something that you just try to actively push on any regular campaign or product. So to quickly go into some examples, today I'll be talking a bit about how to create viral content and how to improve sharing and referability. So steps, let's get to it. One other quick tip, sorry, before I jump into steps, is internal versus external motivation with share. So that's something interesting to consider as well, because a lot of the times certain companies will plan around campaigns where you can compensate your customers for referring someone. So like refer a friend, get some credit, things like that. What is interesting is studies have been shown that as you provide external motivation, what happens is it actually decreases the rate of referrals. Strangely, why that happens is because when you compensate or you provide external motivation, that decreases the internal motivation that drives people to share. And sharing comes primarily from internal motivation. So that's interesting to know. Anyways, so what is social currency? So social currency, the first point is, when you design your product, service, or campaign, think about what makes the sharer look good. So your goal over here is to find the inner remarkability in your product or service. You want to try to make your customers feel like they're insiders, so give them a sense of scarcity. Or you want to try to give them status through some form of gamification, right? So what you can do is you can quantify performance. So I'll give you some quick examples. So in his book, he talks about Please Don't Tell, which is a bar. So there's this bar, you go into the bar, at the end of the bar, there is a phone booth, and then you dial a specific code in the phone booth, it opens up, and then there is a hidden speakeasy in the back. So speakeasy is basically like a small pub. So outside, it's kind of like a cheap bar where they sell hot dogs and stuff, and then inside it's like an exclusive posh club. So you feel like you have access to this special secret that no one else knows because you know about this phone booth, and you want to tell other people about it because it makes you look cool, right? So that's an example of making the sharer look good. Other great examples of kind of different social currency type of plays would be air miles, for example. So premium air members, as they accumulate points, they get exclusive benefits and perks like access to a member-only lounge, things like that. And they like to brag to their friends because they're like, hey, look, I'm #1 on the leaderboard. I get access to all these great perks. So if you can give them some sense of status by gamifying and quantifying their experience, then that encourages people to share as well. I won't go into all of the examples. I encourage you to read the book just because I don't have too much time with the videos. So that's social currency. So triggers then, to move on to the next thing, is social currency gets people talking, but triggers keep people talking. So your goal with triggers is if you can stay top of mind for your customer, it keeps them sharing your product or service. So then when you're thinking about triggers, what exactly makes a good trigger? Good triggers are triggers that happen often and also happen in close proximity to your product or service, but are not already associated with many other items. So, for example, if you have a product or service where people will think about it at work, if the trigger is something that happens at home, then it doesn't make a lot of sense because they have to remember your product all the way from home to work, right? So your goal is to try to associate the trigger with something that happens in close proximity to your product or service. And again, like let's say if you try to use Apple as a trigger, it's not going to be effective because it's really very well and closely associated with another product. So I'm not going to go too much into the examples, but you can read it in the book again. Emotion then is the third factor. Emotion, a lot of people tend to gravitate towards thinking about positive versus negative emotions. What is strange is that what increases sharing is actually not positive or not negative emotions. It's actually high arousal versus low arousal. So to give you an example, things that are high arousal and positive include excitement, amusement, humor. Positive but low arousal would be contentment. So if you give people a sense of contentment, it doesn't encourage sharing. On the negative side of things, people like to share and complain as well. So if you can, dig into that anger or build upon anxiety, that drives people to share it as well. If you focus on emotions like sadness, that is again low arousal, that doesn't increase sharing. So a great video I encourage you to take a look at, although I'm not going to talk to it, is check out the Google's Paris and Love video. So that was a video that they created that was a really viral marketing campaign. So definitely take a look at it. Just Google search Paris and Love. So on the social proofing side of things then, so public is social proof. So think about how you can make behavior something that's observable, especially if your product or service is a bit intangible, right? So if customers can see something, they will try to emulate it. And the goal is a lot of things, when you think about it, thoughts are private, but behavior is public. So how can you make your thoughts public? So you want to think about what we call as, what he calls as behavioral residue. So in an instance where if you do something or you do an activity or you use a product or service and it happens in a moment in time and it's hard for people or other people to see that you've used a product or service, think about how you can create behavioral residue so that people can see it over time. So good examples of that would be, Movember, the campaign. So that's when they grow a mustache over the period of Movember to support prostate cancer. Another great example of making behavior public is if you have voted during an election, those I voted stickers, that's another great example. So think about how you can make your campaigns public so that people can see it. The second P is practical value. So social currency makes the share look good. On the practical value side of things, what you are trying to do is focus on the receiver. What can you give the receiver to benefit them, right? And you're trying to give the receiver a sense of saving time, making more time, making more money, saving more money, giving them a unique or a good experience. So how can you add practical value to your user? To the receiver. So I'm not going to go into too much of the examples again, but one quick tip is, on the practical value side, the narrower your content, the more specific it is, the easier it is for someone to share. So for example, if you're saying something like, learn how ballet dancers can do this, then if you are reading the article, you can immediately think about, I know someone who is a ballet dancer. But if you just have it as a general audience, like, hey, this is how you can do X, Y, Z. If you don't call out who the user is going to be or who the persona is going to be, the reader oftentimes, it might be too general for them to think about who to share it with, even if they know that it's of great value and they got good value out of it themselves. So the more specific you can be, that will increase sharing as well. And then the last S is basically think about how you can wrap a story around it. If you really think about what is often being shared, people love to tell stories. And stories is great because stories don't come across as being pushy or as an ad. People love to share stories because it is sort of that proof by analogy, right? And makes them look interesting as well. So a good story must be related to your product or service, and mustn't and it can't just be some random publicity stunt. So the example that he gives in his book is there was this casino where they were trying to do an advertising campaign, and they had someone dive off, I think one of the diving boards in the Olympics, wearing a suit with the casino branding on it. It was so random. So it's just a publicity stunt. People remember the story of that random guy who jumped off the diving board, but they don't remember the shirt that he was wearing. So a good story should be related to the product or service. So, examples of good stories include like the Subway weight loss diet. When you think about that, it's about this guy who ate Subway nonstop in order to lose weight, right? So it's related. Or the Dove beauty perception campaign. So Dove is related to beauty and perception, so it's still related, so people can remember it. So your goal is to make sure that your stories are related to your product services so that they're memorable. Because as people share stories over time, if you've ever played the game where you pass a message on to a friend, that the story or the message always changes over time. So your goal is to ensure that your centerpiece, your company, your product, your service remains constant throughout all the sharing. So, just to summarize all of them all together. So steps, social currency, what makes you look good? Can you find the inner remarkability of your product or service? People like to share remarkable things. Can you leverage game mechanics to create some sense of status? Can you make people feel like insiders? Triggers, consider the context. What cues make people think about your product or service? Emotion, focus on feelings. Don't talk about products or does talking about your product or idea generate emotions? How can you kindle the fire? Focus on arousing emotions, right? Public, does your product or idea advertise itself? Can people see when others are using it? If not, can you make the private public? How can you create this behavioral residue? Practical value, does talking about your product or idea help people help others? Can you highlight incredible value, packaging your knowledge and expertise into useful information that others will want to decimate? Or stories, what is your Trojan horse? Is your product or idea embedded in the broader narrative that people want to share? Is the story not only viral, but also valuable? So think about all of these pieces as you design your product, services, or campaigns. So that's basically it. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about revenue optimization. So this is going to be the next key step and the last key step before we transition into talking a bit about sales strategy and all the other things. So tune in for the next session to listen a bit about revenue optimization and how to make the most out of what you're charging your customers right now. So that's it. Again, if you have any great examples of any interesting viral videos, viral campaigns, if you have tested anything and you think that some of the key elements and steps apply to it, feel free to share your examples in the comments below. Remember, not all campaigns need to incorporate all of the elements and steps. Some campaigns will only focus on social currency, or some campaigns will only focus really on the trigger side of things. But there are many different ways to implement it, and you just want to think about, what can I build from steps into my product, services, or campaign? Cool. Until then, see you all for the next video.